Hello, everyone. We got together here for a roundtable today to speak about how we've changed and the wider topic of mental health. My guests are Robbie Cordukes from Via Lipke Travel Agency, more Elian, she's an artist, label owner, jewelry designer, DJ, producer, everything, all of that. And then Tobi, Tobi Neumann is a DJ and sound engineer and runs Apollo Studio here in Berlin. So I'm going to start with you, Robbie, if that's okay. So Via Lipke is a travel agency. You're doing travel management and logistics for artists, for promoters, and for agencies.
Correct.
And so obviously before Corona, you had a lot to do. You have between the four of you 15 agencies you're working with. On your own, you're managing about 40 artists and all of their travel. So originally you're from Australia and you moved to Berlin, I think, in 2013.
2013, yeah.
So tell me, like, how was it before Corona hit? I mean, I know you guys have been very busy and then suddenly not. So
yeah, I guess.
Tell us about that.
I guess let's start 2019. We were coming off the back end of an amazing year, really successful, reaching new goals, going from strength to strength. We just expanded our staff. We were looking for a permanent office space. I was in a really good mental space, and I was really proud of everything that we'd achieved as a company. Come around March 2020, I was traveling back to Australia to see family and friends, and I remember being in Melbourne when I started getting calls from all my colleagues and my and clients, and they were calling to tell me that all their flights had started to be cancelled, and all the events were more or less getting shut down.
And all of this is while you were in Australia?
All of this was while I was in Australia on my summer holiday. But
Great.
Yeah, so this was kind of the start, I guess, of the COVID wave coming in, and I had to just start dealing with the damage control of having to cancel all the flights and yeah.
So that probably took you like a month or so,
well,
right?
Yeah,
so I remember in the beginning there was a lot of shifting.
It was a really long process to handle all that, because in some cases for some of the agencies we'd booked well into June already for their travel. So it was a long process of cancelling flights and trying to with the promoters and everything. And yeah, it was a really stressful time. It was quite a steep downward spiral, you can say, I guess.
Yeah, sure. And then and it must have been also devastating for you as a business owner to see your business basically falling into
absolutely.
pieces.
It was more or less everything crumbling around you, and just having to have all that heavy stress coming in was pretty hard to swallow, I guess.
And then you were in Australia at the time, so you and your wife in Australia.
Correct.
How did you? So you managed to get back to Europe somehow, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I also got stuck in Australia for quite a long time. It could be worse places to be stuck, but it was the end of the summer, which was nice, and there wasn't so many corona cases in Australia at that time, so we could kind of just chill out there for a while, and then. Yeah, we had to try and make our way back to Europe, which also took lots of time to even try and find a route back into Europe, which was also a little bit tough.
So then you were back in Berlin, and I guess in the beginning must have been difficult. But tell us a little bit about the dynamic also of maybe the beginning and to where you're now in that whole time.
Yeah, so I guess after all we had to cancel all the flights and everything, I ended up kind of being jobless, more or less. Everything had come to a standstill. There was no more events or travel being put on, so I had to. Yeah, I didn't really have much I could do at the time, so I ended up with all this spare time on my hands, which was nice at the start. It was enjoyable, but. I guess soon after, when you have all this extra time on your hands, you start to get anxious and depressed, and you're thinking about the future and things like this. So it was we ended up having quite a lot of anxiety and depression, unfortunately, having to deal with that. But
right. So tell us then, fast forward. I mean, we've been dealing for about a year now with the situation, right? So what was the breaking point for you, and how did you shift into a different mind frame? And
I guess, how would I put it? It took a long time to kind of think of new ways that I was either going to fill my time with, or how I was going to refocus things to keep myself busy.
Did you try different things, or?
Yeah, I did try some things, but I was luckily offered a job at the Tegel Vaccine Centre, so from some colleagues of mine, which was really great. And so for the last month, I've kind of been focusing my time on working there, and that's been super beneficial to progress forward a little bit more and have some structure back in my life. And it seems like half the techno industry is kind of working in these vaccine centers. So
I've heard of a few.
So
you have to speak German to work there.
Yeah, you do. This is another point, I guess. It was a really nice thing to improve my German and be able to work in that environment finally, and then also doing something good for the community and being able to help out in this way was really nice. And then obviously the job security and stuff was really nice, but that kind of lifted a big weight off my shoulders.
So that means you and your wife, I guess,
both
both
me and my
now
partner and wife are both working there. Temporarily, of course, until things come back. But it's been a really good way to move forward and kind of alleviate some of the stress of the things that are going around. So.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Whoa.
Hi. Keep wanting to pick up a microphone.
I know.
There's one there.
We got it.
One microphone.
So, I mean, you're such a wonderful, very busy person.
Not so busy anymore.
So I read interviews about you, and so I wasn't really sure how am I going to condense this down to the intro, but from what I'm picking up, so you're a DJ obviously and a producer first and foremost, but you also have a label, Fever FM, together with
Fever AM, yes.
Fever AM,
yes.
Thank you. That you're co-running, and a sub-label you just founded, I think, with your new ambient project that you've just done.
Sinsin, yes.
Amazing.
It's our new, it's like a tape, right now it's a tape label. Let's see. You never commit to anything because it might turn into something else.
I saw you actually the first release you did was on a tape.
Yes,
that's pretty cool. So do people do people have tape players, or do you sell them with the tape?
No, that would be a little too logistically difficult. But no, people have tape players. It's actually a booming niche.
That's really fun. You're also a radio host. And you've been doing this for quite some time now.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while. I've been in a couple.
You said you just moved to a new station.
It's been over a year at this point, but I started in Dub Lab, and I was there for about 2 or 3 years, and while I was living in LA, and then when I moved here, I tried to keep going from here, and I have for about a year or so, and then I had to let go of that and give the opportunity to someone else.
Yeah, sure.
And then about a year or two later, I was offered the opportunity to come on Rinse FM, which is a British radio station, which is also on FM. And and I just went for it.
Amazing. And you also have a residency at HER.
We have a Fever AM residency at HER every 2 months, but sometimes it's more often because we have too many ideas. Yeah.
And so you were born and raised in Tel Aviv, and then you moved to LA.
And then I moved to LA, which is the story that I always kind of have to explain that I was there and then I was there, but I'm kind of from both at this point because I've spent so much time in LA. So I was in LA for 10 years, and then I moved here.
Where you also had your event series, you also worked as a booker, so you know the industry also from both sides.
I kind of around the time I started touring a lot, I started a party called Into the Woods with a guy named Jimmy Maheras, and we started we basically without getting into it, if you want to know about the party, I'll explain what the concept of the party was. But we ran for about until COVID, so from 2017 till COVID. And that was a good party, really successful, and we had a lot of really cool stuff happening for 2020, but I don't even know where that's, like gone with the wind.
And then you also have a jewelry line?
Yes, I have. I mean, it's not as active as, it's kind of the older project.
But you come from a designer family.
I come from a designer family, yes. So I have my sister, my parents are always been in the clothing industry, in the clothing business. And my sister is an interior designer, and my other sister is a clothing designer. So like I kind of, naturally, and when I was younger, I picked up some kind of craft and made it my own. It's like, this is mine.
And creative also. Amazing. So, I mean, your schedule before Corona, you played all the big festivals, you were on tour a lot, I think, before Corona hit. And then tell us a little bit about the life before Corona and what you've been doing since also.
It's funny because we were talking earlier, and there was a perspective when we talked before I came here. You said, you're a younger DJ. And I was like, well, I'm not so young anymore. It's been quite a while. I've been doing this. But then, you mentioned Tobi. I was like, compared to Tobi, I'm like basically in diapers still, so it's all like kind of in my head, I'm like, oof, it's been a while, but then I look at people like him and I'm like, okay, so we can relax. You're still a baby. I've been like the last 5 years, up till like COVID, the 5 years before that kind of were really busy, especially the last 2 or 3, where I would be gone almost every weekend, and it was amazing, and I would never change anything about it, but at the same time it was like really taxing emotionally and physically, so to be kind of plucked out of that, when I was kicking and screaming, like, hypothetically, when COVID happened, I was like, no, don't, stop, what are you doing? You're taking my life away. But then I was like, okay, like I can get with this for a little bit. And
once the dust settled, so similar.
It settled pretty quickly too. It was the same day probably. Because I remember being in like a bath, like kind of like really like emotionally disturbed, and being like, I feel like something really good is gonna come out of this. Like I had like a burst of optimism, and I was like, I can make something good out of this. So back then we thought, okay, a few months, and then it just kept. We all know how it went. It started kind of like 2 months, and then it was like 6 months, and it was like 1 year, and then it's like, oh, we don't know when or forever, But I mean, my life was really, really busy before. Now, when I think about my schedule before, I have no idea how I did that. Like I've fit in so much in every day or every week.
Automatic
I hear that a lot.
And I was
this is the automatic mode.
Yeah, I was just like fight or flight, like rat race, like most. And I wasn't satisfied. I was like, more, bigger, stronger, sorry, Daft Punk. I didn't mean to do that, actually. But I was like, must do better, and now I'm like, F that, so my programming completely shifted. Yes. But so I'm grateful. I try to say it without being insensitive, because I know it severely hurt a lot of people, like physically, this disease, and obviously people's careers and paths and beautiful things they were working on just got completely crumbled. So I don't want to sound insensitive, but for me it was there was a lot of blessing in this. But it doesn't mean that I don't want to go back, to a lot of things that I were before, but just differently.
Yeah.
So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what you asked.
Just, okay. But so tell us a little bit, what have you been doing since? was the second question. So what have you? I mean, you have so many.
I don't even
things.
remember what happened yesterday.
You've been in the studio,
no, I'm joking.
or you working in your jewelry.
I will really I'll summarize it. The first 2 months, I was like, yeah, studio time. This is a great. I think a lot of people had this like, I'll make a lot of music, and we had this optimism that I'm just gonna like finish all and work on my music and my mental health and I work out and I'll, but I mostly just started flossing from that. So I floss every day now. So
do you actually mean flossing?
I've been flossing every day for a year. So
oh, like must be an English term that I don't know.
It's one of the best rewards that happened from. No, I'm joking. I did work out a lot in the beginning, and I was in the studio every day, and I've progressed with music and all these beautiful things. And I started flossing every day, which is such a thing I really wanted to do for a long time. And finally, with COVID, I was able to start flossing every day. And I mean, come on, it's real. And then and then summer came, and it was lovely. So
finally a summer Berlin, which usually you don't get as an artist.
I was home, and yes, I had a lot less money in my account, a lot less money in my account, where I was kind of like thinking more, and but I was also able to like really be present and I built like a group of friends that I really love here. I had normality, day to day, routine, like it just like felt really grounding and healing for me. And again, I don't want to sound offensive to people that their dreams were crushed or their income was crushed, because one of the biggest lessons, except for flossing, that I've learned from this is that I don't need flossing. Is that I don't need so much to be happy.
Yes.
Like.
Also, not so much money. I'm hearing
cliche.
From a lot of
That's
people.
That's what I mean. I don't need so much money. Yeah, and I was like, I can actually have as much like wealth or the lifestyle I want, which is not that, it's pretty modest lifestyle, My overhead's very low.
Yeah.
I keep it low always from survival years. I've learned to keep my overhead low. So that's also something that came in handy. Yeah.
Not having an apartment also, that's like...
Yeah.
Sure.
I always kept my bills low, really... Like, cause I struggled for so many years that I was like, I don't feel comfortable jumping there yet with this or this or this. So I kept it low. Good. And so when stuff hit the fan, I was kind of like, okay, I can do this, like I can figure this out. So I've learned that I can have the same amount of happiness with because the more income you have, also you have a lot more expenses.
The more you spend.
So it's it's kind of like you go and you look, okay, so it's like I'm left with almost the same amount of, so I was like, I don't need to chase all this other stuff, and I can be really happy with what I have, and I can still tour, but it doesn't need to be this like exhausting, extensive rat race that was like really like just completely crushing me,
Yeah, also in the time when I made a lot of money with touring, I spent a lot of money for bullshit, for shoes, for 400 bucks and stuff. And now I'm looking at my closet and say, what the fuck? Where did and I really don't need that much. So actually, you do this as a substitute for feeling home. You just want to spend some of your money, and actually this kind of a little bit odd way of spending money really also completely changed in my case by not having that much anymore,
Totally. So
you really don't need that much.
No, you don't need that much.
What you need is friends.
And it's your time, right?
And music and good food.
Totally. So I replaced touring with friends and natural wine.
Yeah. Natural wine.
But no, I'm joking. I'm actually kind of not drinking right now because
natural wine is nice.
It's nice, but in moderation. I had a lovely summer, and then there was a little bit of really safe gigs, no plague raves.
Yeah, you did the Arte concert.
Yes, the United We Stream. That was really fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I did a few of those, and I struggled for many years. I was very, very broke, very poor. So I started making money, and at some point in my life, and I learned to really hustle and figure things out, and so I feel okay, and it kind of boosted my creativity because I was like, hey, how can I do this? And maybe I'll do this. So all these nice ideas and opportunities and things came, and it's exciting to kind of figure things out and still work on music and still hope to develop, be able to progress in it, because now the progression part of music is really hindered by COVID. You put out music, and of course I keep putting music, but there's no much first of all, we don't make much money from music.
Do you mean because there's no touring, or
yes, because there's no touring, and also when you release music now, it's not, it seems to be not, especially dance music, it's not received the same way.
No.
Also there's not
there's no test on the dance floor for you don't see the impact of the music.
So the momentum kind of doesn't happen when you put a really dance track that you think would be really well received. It doesn't get that momentum because there's no dance floor.
Sure. Didn't even think of that.
So no, it's a real thing. So I've been seeing really great albums and tracks kind of being put out, and we'll get a little bit, but not the usual kind of perpetuation, that comes out of it,
perfect time to do an ambient experimental
album.
I
worked on that before, and then I was like, well, I guess
now it's the time.
And it finished it in the first lockdown, so I was like, I guess it's something exciting, and I'm really happy I put it out. So just trying to stay busy and creative, and I think that's it in a nutshell, basically. Cool.
Tobi, so you're DJ, and actually what maybe not everyone knows, before your DJ career you were a sound engineer for TV for almost 10 years, 8 years in Munich.
And music producer.
You did jingles, and where do I have it here? Somewhere. So you did a lot of stuff. TV commercials and all of this. No?
But I also produced some indie bands and stuff with our limited equipment, and later
So you had a production studio already in Munich?
Yeah, I started to build the studio from very early days.
Wow,
and
so
actually the studio I have now is still some of the stuff from back in the days. It's inside of the...
And then in '95 at the Love Parade, the legend says you fell in love with electronic music.
It started. The Love Parade made... Actually, the first thing which really gave me an infection was the second toughest in France from Underworld, this album. A friend gave it to me on tape. I went with my Volvo car back from the studio home, and I was so blasted by this music that I went 3 times on the ring around Munich and heard the album at least 3 times.
Munich.
Around Munich, the Mittleren Ring.
Nice.
And there was already something which really triggered me in a way how no music ever have done before, And then the second Love Parade, where I did not do the mistake to have a job already on Monday morning again. I really did the extended thing. What you come on a Thursday and don't leave before Tuesday. So and then I had this thing. I was 30 years already, and I started to buy records, and then everything went pretty fast,
When was the second one? Was it 96?
My second one. The second one was 90. The first one was 89 before the wall came down.
But the last one was 2000,
the last one in Berlin, I guess 2005, 2006. But at the end, they were kind of not in a good mood anymore, and there were problems, internal problems. And then some strange fitness guru bought the brand of Love Parade and did it in the west of Germany, also to some other times, like in end of the summer. Until this terrible disaster happened in 2010, and then it was history.
Horrible. So
anyway, for me was the instant, the start of being a DJ happened on Love Parade actually.
Yeah. And then you did productions for Chicks on Speed,
everything kind of went a little bit synchronized, because there was this one major techno place in Munich called Ultraschall.
Yeah.
And in the Ultraschall, they were always very open to art events. And on one of those art events, I met the Chicks on Speed. And I saw them, and I felt some energy. And I had the studio, and I said, hey, come on, let's do some music. And they came, and we started to record. And from the first 7-inch single, we made Warm Leatherette, a version of this old Daniel Miller classic.
Yes.
And it was like instantly played by so many DJs, and then the second one was called Euro Trash Girl, and we started to get a band, kind of. I even performed with them on Sonar, where I played the guitar, and from there on, the people read my name on the records, and this, together with the party I started to do by myself.
So that's
I did a weekly party for 4 years called Flocati in the ambient floor of the Ultraschall.
98 that started.
Yeah, we started in February 98 with Chedamier. It was our first DJ guest. And then from there on it went actually pretty fast.
Yeah, you were signed on Sven's Cocoon on the label, but also on the booking agency.
In booking agency,
And many years of successful touring and been in the scene. So you really belong to that first big wave of artists.
I would say the second, because
I know,
the very,
but I'm saying big.
ones,
There was the big in there. So I mean, like with Richie and Carl and Monica, Ellen, like that second generation of artists who really brought techno to the wider masses. I would say, electronic music. You're now 55, so. I know you over the last years. We were talking a few times about this, like the exit strategy, because I know for many artists, from who we were just speaking about, it's a topic. Obviously, when you're over 45, 50 plus, what do you do after? Do you always, do you want to keep going to play at night and drinking and all of that? So then you started to build Apollo Studio here in Berlin.
Yeah, I had the studio all the time, but I was like, the career went so well, the DJing career, and I was DJing, like my biggest years were in the time between 2003 and 2012. I would say, and in this time, actually, it did not need a lot of requirement. You've been a Cocoon DJ, and that was it. Instagram, what's that? We had some MySpace, and sometimes a little interview, sometimes a release, and it actually was so much easier to just be there and be a name at this time, and at this time I made a major mistake in my life. Then I was like not working that much in the studio anymore. I was still investing. I started with the modular, and I did it more for hobby, And actually, I lost a little bit the path of where I came originally from, because DJ life was very sweet. There was never any money problem, and on the same time, it was very time consuming, as you can, as she also told, and also I needed to recover. So during the week, I recovered from Monday till Wednesday, went to the record store, got new records, and started to prepare my sets for the weekend. And this was kind of my rhythm. And in this rhythm, the studio didn't really fit that much in anymore, and so I also really didn't produce that much. And as you said before, that my last years before Corona were not that exciting anymore as a DJ. The bookings were not the best ones anymore. There was a lot of parties I didn't play anymore. I mean, I played in almost all the big clubs for many years, but everything went a little bit down. And I started to ask myself, okay, you're over 50. How will you find an exit of that, And actually the COVID really helped me, took me by the hand. So, okay, I'll show you, So to be honest, this was for me a very good solution, because then I started to work again constantly in my studio. And I think now I have my confidence back, which I had in the early years, and some really good jobs popped up, and we started to work constantly on certain projects. And
you're giving workshops also touching sound.
Yeah, this is another thing, and also I have a partner, Andrea Martinez. She's a young, very very smart woman from Mexico City, which lives in Berlin after graduating the SAE, and she saw me doing sound design for some bands. We were in another studio in the Riverside, and she said, you should teach the people, And I started, at the beginning, I did one video for the DJ Tech tools, explaining how to build a kick drum by some modules, and there was also already a really good response. And so actually we founded this touching sound course idea, which is actually not an online course, it's a physical course where the people are in my studio and can, operate all the gear we have. And I have a large studio with crazy amount of synthesizers, and everything is connected very well, so people can be there and experience the whole process from turning on the 909 and some MPC on some synthesizers until really mixing down the track, and that's what we offer.
So you create pieces there? You
Yeah, and we even release them on Bandcamp for them, so that's,
Amazing.
It's a nice thing, and I found some good gaps for me to be more happy actually also with my life than I have been in the last years before the COVID,
Yes.
And there's one more thing. Maybe it's too honest, but
you can stop now.
Yeah, do you?
I'm kidding. Because every time I'm too honest, I'm like, why did you do that?
People know me. No, I mean, I had to be on the social media, and I constantly compared my schedule with the schedules of my friends, and some like Diet and the guys from Apollonia and the young ones who came up like that. And suddenly, when COVID appeared, nobody posted any lineups anymore.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely, please.
This kind of like competitive thing that happens to a lot of people kind of dissipated because of the lack of nothing, like the lack of nothing, the lack of anything. And so for me, when now they started announcing some stuff and I have no reaction to, I see a festival that I love, like a lot of them, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's really.
I'm not on it. I don't care. Like whatever.
It brought some things in order weird for me. Also, now when I, for instance, like from friends who have success with what they do, there's really a pure and honest joy, and no jealousy anymore. So maybe to answer your second question already, I have to say that for me, it brought in a very positive way order in my life. I really enjoy to stand up early. I make some workout. I would definitely recommend not to drink too much and eat healthy food and go to work every day. I cannot tell you how much I enjoy that, because also I did not feel the pressure anymore to still be something as a DJ, because it was definitely not that easy anymore in the last years. I mean, I'm a good DJ. I make people dance, and I also don't see myself as a super specialist in one style. Actually, I wanna find a nice, common sense with the people, and I see myself more as a service, as a service guy to give a service for the dance floor. And so now I'm looking forward when I can do this. I had also a few gigs in the summer. Some were really nice. But I'm not depending on the income of that anymore. I have my studio and I have my life, and actually I'm not sure if I would be that happy without the COVID situation.
And is this something?
I mean, no offense to all the people who are suffering from that, and I know how hard it is, especially the ones who are lonely. The loneliness of some people is terrible, especially the ones who were living always on the road, and their whole life and their whole friendships were happening on the road and not that much at home. So actually, this is something which is probably really important for being kind of in a mental stable,
Yeah, it's tragic seeing.
It's tragic.
Really tragic seeing how some people are not holding up very well mentally, but it's natural, it's not. It's hitting people in different places. So
I had also good luck because I was single for 10 years. And I mean, to be single is something, especially when you get older, it's not so easy. And then I met, in 2019, I met Silke, my partner. And she 2019, and she, with her, my life changed anyway, big time. I have to say.
We're happy for you.
Totally.
For myself.
Robbie, Tobi was speaking about the food and the exercise and all of this. Do you have any tips or routines? What you do for?
I guess just
stay ahead of the game.
Having the extra time to just really enjoy the hobbies that you love, right? Cooking was always a big thing for me, so
okay, we're gonna have to make a bit of that.
Yeah, also Lengi is the boss.
The Jerusalem one's good.
Yeah. And also the vegetarian one.
Yeah, and like the guys said, just regular exercise, getting out of the house every day was super important, so you could clear your mind and decompress.
I know you and Jackie do this thing where you actually go for at least an hour walk every day.
Every day. It's just even
strict. I'm like, what do you? I'm for my walk.
Even during the middle of the German winter, it was just important to get outside and just decompress and just clear your mind.
Some structure.
Yeah.
Some timing. Also stand up not later than making your breakfast, doing some workout. In my case, it was really lucky that I have this place here where I have my studio. So even in the lockdowns, I was always able to go to work and meet some people, even with a mask on the hallway. But so actually, if you have your studio at home and you are alone, this might be more tricky.
The daily walk
it's a big one.
You do that one too?
They say it's the biggest reinvention of.
It's funny. It's like me and my friends have there's someone made a meme that was like, just going on my stupid walk every single day, going on a silly little walk every day. But it's not stupid or silly, but we make it kind of like, all right, we're just going to go out and walk in a circle. And
it's good to have a dog in this case.
Yeah.
A lot of people got dogs now.
Yeah, it's great.
Also, music comes into my head when I walk.
Yeah.
In a certain rhythm.
Yeah.
It's nice. You have some ideas.
Creative.
It is inspiring, I think.
Yeah, but the walk is all we have.
What
really.
else do you do as that routine?
What else do I do? I've been taking courses on Udemy.
Cool.
What
are the courses exactly?
I really wanted to learn about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Oh, cool.
So I'm taking a CBT course because I was like, okay, well, maybe because it's really hard to find a therapist in Berlin, as you all know, and I've been trying for a long time. So I've had other types of therapists that are more alternative, all sorts of methods.
Sure.
But I wanted, I thought maybe if I learn the principles, it would make use for me to apply it, something to learn to kind of help me. Because I have anxiety, like a lot of people. And
did that increase after?
My anxiety is always there.
It's always
it just attaches to a different thing every day. So it can be about my... this I forgot, like my health, or it can be about finances, or it can be about I'm a failure, or I'm failing something, or always in the night. So I've had it my whole life, and it attaches to whatever happens in that day or week. And then some months it just dissipates. It just kind of like, oh, I'm not anxious anymore. I'm mentally cured. No, I'm not mentally ill anymore.
And there it's back.
And then I was like, oh, here you are again. I was like, oh, I thought we were done, But maybe it's a little hormonal as well, because hormones contribute to all the imbalances. So I am trying all sorts of things to kind of tackle it so it doesn't so I can manage it. It used to be worse, but I've learned to kind of train myself a lot to kind of don't let it completely overtake me to a point of some sort of panic.
Yeah. Do you have panic attacks?
But I have very I never had a proper panic attack. I've had maybe nothing that I needed to go seek help at that moment. But maybe where I would sit up and be like,
yeah,
and then I would kind of calm myself down in some way of distracting my thought or something.
Do you know panic attacks? You've ever had that? It's funny because I actually meet people who never had it. I'm fascinated.
I had it Yeah, for
You
sure.
know
Just
panic
after
attacks?
COVID, yeah. I was,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for the first time.
In Australia
It's
still,
really
when you
horrible
come back,
feeling.
yeah, wow.
Yeah. Just right at the start when everything was kicking off, I was lying in bed and just felt like my chest was being crushed. It's really.
Did you seek professional help?
I didn't because it did go away in the coming months, but
Did you read about what did you do?
I'd had other friends that had been in similar situations, so they could kind of talk me through it, and I realised that it was a panic attack, and it's just things that you need to kind of
Wow.
go through.
Because it's hard to help yourself in that moment.
I had problems of insomnia.
I have that too.
That I couldn't sleep, and I really fixed it.
How? Tell us.
Yeah, tell us.
I mean, it sounds really silly, but it's like the one thing is you should definitely not eat too heavy in the evening, shortly, and
Warm
then
tea
maybe
before
even
bed.
I always try to convince my girlfriend that we should also make a walk before I go sleep. No electronics in the sleeping room. Really important. No phone, and no matter where my phone lies in the flat, I always turn it off. Like I put it on flight
Airplane,
mode.
yeah.
So you put it on airplane mode and out of the room.
Yeah.
I do that.
But I have a sleeping app where that records my sleeping pattern.
I bought a
I had
mechanical.
that problem too.
Sleep cycle. What do
Yeah.
I do?
I had I bought again a mechanical watch if I need an alarm, And then magnesium in the evening. Magnesium.
Magnesium's a big one, yeah.
Magnesium, and there's one other thing which helped me personally a lot. It's completely plant-based called Pasco Flair. It is
what is that
Johanniskraut.
What
Was
is
ist das auf Englisch?
Plant-based?
A plant-based medication.
diet?
It's like a pill. It's called Johanniskraut.
Okay, so now we're entering drug zone.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it.
Taking
No,
a
you
sleeping
get it
aid.
without prescription.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
You're taking a sleeping aid.
Yeah, I do.
No, I'm joking.
And a big spliff.
Yeah. No, wait, are you?
And some red wine, It's also
Okay, we're escalating. It's just good. We don't mean anything seriously.
No, but
it's a natural remedy.
I now
actually,
really sleep well, and also there's one thing which really happens when you're a shift worker like us DJs. There is the one hormone which you usually have.
Melatonin? Yeah,
I think it tells the brain that when your bladder is a quarter full, that you don't automatically have to go to the bathroom, and this hormone is not working anymore. So that's why we sometimes had to stand up 4, 5, 6 times in a night to go to the bathroom. And I had this problem still at the beginning of COVID, when I was still DJing from time to time, because this shift work, when you suddenly are awake the whole night, and you're completely out of balance, and usually this hormone doesn't work anymore, and some doctors even give you a spray where you can put it inside.
The clock is off.
And now
I never heard of
it's
that.
completely
Oh,
gone.
managers have that too.
I maximum one time a night have to go to the bathroom, because this is really tricky. That when you go to the bathroom, you start to think, and once you start to think, you cannot sleep anymore.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
My dog needs to go to a bathroom at night.
So I have to say that I saw how much rhythm came back to my life, which is very kind of pleasing.
And making you feel better in the morning, of course.
Yeah, I'm in a good mood. And when I wake up at 4, sometimes this still happens because I'm not that young anymore. So when I go to at 11, it can happen that I'm waking up at 4 and think about something. I read a book for 1 hour, and then I have a beautiful sleep again.
Yeah.
The electronic should be away from us.
My partner stopped looking at his phone before sleeping, and so he doesn't look at electronics for about half an hour before he sleeps, and he reads, and that has helped him a lot.
Yeah, it's
I
the
can't
light
do it
sensitivity,
still.
right?
I mean, the one
can't
thing
do
I
it.
sometimes have the laptop in my bed is because I have a huge modular system and there's so much to learn, and sometimes I watch tutorials, which is the best sleeping pill you can have. You see, make noise, morphine, and you watch it. Okay. And when a guy talks with a kind of steady voice and explains which CV have you plug into which...
Sounds super boring, yeah. Just kidding.
But actually it's so nice.
I'm joking. It's not boring.
My girlfriend, when she's with me, I'm not doing it. But she lives in Munich, I'm living in Berlin, so I still have some days where I can do this.
So I guess, as a closing question to all of you, I mean, we're hearing a lot of, we talked about some of it already, but just to wrap it up, we're hearing obviously a lot of negative comments about COVID, which you rightly said so, is, a lot of people are suffering from this. But if you can say something that I guess you'd be grateful for or that you wouldn't want to miss coming out of this, what would you like this to be? Who wants to start? Okay, go.
Flossing. I'm just kidding.
You're kidding a lot.
I know.
I like.
I have a hard time being serious. I'm really sorry. The one thing I'm grateful for. Wow, actually, there's a lot.
Give me a few things.
I'm grateful for not needing an alarm clock as much as I needed. Not being in a rat race anymore, and like just really tuning. Oh yeah, okay, this is a good one I forgot to say. When I was in a very active touring and career of releasing music, I was really pressured by the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and like where I should go and all these things. And my music making process or whatever creative process was really heavily influenced by that. I'm like, do I fit in? Does that fit in? How will it be received? Should I try more like this? Should I go more this way? Like, should I make, should I release this track but not this? Because this won't be like, so all this like, infiltrating things from the outside world that are like not you tuning into yourself happened. And what it allowed is it removed a lot of the noise and the outside factor and allowed me to kind of tune back to, and you kind of said something similar. You went back to that feeling from the beginning that you had, that you lost, that you gained back, and you were so happy to get it. And I hope I didn't take away your grateful thing is, but anyways, that kind of like I started listening to myself more, to what I really want to do without that kind of interruption from the outside, career, pressure,
and
life,
now that you know
expectation.
Now that you know about that, you can recognize it next time it happens and make sure that that doesn't grab you as much anymore.
Exactly. And it kind of, it's like a muscle X thing that you have to kind of learn to kind of go back to yourself. But also, if you do something, like there are lessons that if you do for long enough, they will stick. Like for me, if I really want to change something with myself, I make the intention, and for some reason it doesn't happen right away, but eventually I am able to achieve this thing that I want to.
2 forward, 1 back. No, how's it? Yeah.
Yeah, is that how it is?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's kind of like something that really bothered me is like paying attention to what goes on in the scene sometimes. In the scene, I was like, oh man, like all these things, and now I'm like, whatever, and I wanted that to happen so much. I didn't want to be bothered so much from the outside, And eventually, with COVID and everything that happened, it led me to a point where I'm less influenced by the outside noises. So that's something I'm grateful for.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Robbie.
What am I grateful for? I guess just having the newfound strength to be able to deal with any situation. I mean, after this horrible thing with COVID, I feel like I can kind of tackle anything from now on. If I can live this out, then I can do anything kind of thing, which has been really nice.
And in your routine, I guess, maybe not, because I remember some of your summers were extremely busy.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's nice. I'm grateful for being able to finally disconnect from work, because it's generally on the weekends, even if I was going out to dinner or something, I would always have to take my laptop with me. DJ's missing their flight, I'm doing it at the dinner table, and you never fully disconnect. And I'm really grateful for that time to have been able to do that as well. It's been really great. Yeah.
You think you're going to be able to take some of that into when it starts to be busy again?
Yeah, I think it's just recognizing how crazy it was in the past, and then reshaping and refocusing things to have a better work-life balance and be ready for when it all comes back.
Make sure to keep the perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Wider.
Yeah.
Nice. And then for you, Tobi, what do you say?
Like a lot of humbleness came to my life, and I take things not for granted anymore, and find joy in little things, just being with a friend on a nice walk, having a nice conversation, having a glass of wine without going on the whole night with other things or whatever, like this kind of appreciation of life, of things. And everything which will come in the future for me as a DJ, I take as a big present. I remember I was in the summer once booked for the guys, lovely guys from Sisyphus, and they somehow managed with Ordnungsamt to find a 300 people capacity, fully legal mode to run 2 outside floors, and they booked me for this Hammerhallen tunnel floor. I was allowed to play techno and house in full on mode with really no limitation of the sound. I cannot tell you how happy I have been. And it was not for the money or anything. It was just for the joy. So I think I'm a little bit more of a humble guy now, and I'm pretty sure I would stay like that. It's
nice.
I hope everyone remembers the lessons we learned.
And the question which drives us probably all, will it ever be again in the same way? Will people drive for one concert, fly with the Ryanair for 40 euros from Munich to Milan or to London? I mean, as nice this was, we know that the future generation have to pay the price for it.
Exactly.
So I am not really sure if it's the most important thing in the world that DJs, even small DJs, travel every weekend to play anywhere. And maybe also brings a little bit back the support your local heroes.
Amazing. Thank you, Mo.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tobi.
Thank you, Franzie.
Thank you, United
Thank you.
Stream.
Thank you, United Stream.
Yeah, bye.